Always some fun news from Jack Dorsey, and this time he announced a fund that will help Bitcoin developers defend themselves in court if they're sued. Dorsey proposed this fund together with Chain Code Labs co-founder Alex Morkos and Martin White, who is an academic, who is a researcher. The fund will be called Bitcoin Legal Defense Fund Board. And it will help Bitcoin developers to seek defense in court if they need some help, for example, finding good lawyers and paying them. And the reason this fund actually came into life, the main reason is, of course, Craig Wright, the man who says he's Satoshi Nakamoto, the founder of Bitcoin, who says he's the founder of Bitcoin, who is also the founder of Bitcoin Cash fork, Bitcoin SV, and who is infamous for suing people in the cryptoverse for all possible reasons. And the last two cases were him suing people for hosting the Bitcoin white paper, which Craig Wright says he has intellectual rights for, and for suing Bitcoin developers to give him access to two Bitcoin wallets who Craig Wright says he owns but lost access to due to the hack. So there is too much to unpack actually in this news. But what do you guys think? It's kind of a good idea of community coordination and like coordinated defense. Because Bitcoin community is decentralized, but you obviously need to join forces when something like that comes up. What do you think, Zach?
I think it's really crazy to see, right? I mean, I think it's often forgotten that like Bitcoin core development is this open source thing by a relatively small number of people who are supporting the technical backbone of a really big, all of a sudden, asset class. I should probably look up the exact number. I don't know. It's over $1 trillion. Is it 2 trillion? I don't know, but it's a really big thing.
A lot.
And so we're seeing like, open source legal defense funds springing up with some big name backers. I think that makes a ton of sense, right? This is something that has come up. Open source development is sponsored by companies and other prominent individuals in the space. And those open source developers often need legal resources, and they too are going to be sponsored by entities and prominent individuals in the space. So it's kind of interesting and in keeping with the Bitcoin development ethos that this is how the legal apparatus of the Bitcoin developer class is shaping up. So I think it's interesting to see. It's always fun to see like Jack Dorsey writing on this mailing list that has like really funny like font and like looks like the 1990s. I always think that's kind of cool and like cypherpunky. So it's fun to see that come out. And this piece absolutely, hits the nail on the head when it comes to the context in which stuff like this is needed. So interesting to see, and interesting to see Jack, get his Bitcoin cred, his Bitcoin bona fides. Really another one for him there. So I'm going to toss it to Jen for your thoughts, but yeah, what are you thinking on the legal side?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Dorsey is really targeting the industry from every angle, and it's really cool, right? It was becoming more and more evident that he's a Bitcoin maxi, and now he's just all in on his vision for the future. So I want to talk about how the decisions are going to be made in this fund. So the board is going to decide which cases to support when it comes to providing legal help or money. And so I really hope that when they're building this board that they're focusing on the diversity of the board. I would hate to see bias come through on a project that is so good for the industry. So I am waiting to see who gets appointed to the board, who has control of the funds, and who has access to this legal help. So I'm excited to just wait and see how this unfolds. But Anna, I'll pass back to you to wrap us up.
Yeah, I think as Zach said, it's very, actually I need to give it to Jack. What he's doing is usually very in tune with the Bitcoin ethos and the whole spirit of the movement. But it's always when it's even when it's decentralized, and especially when it's decentralized and like community based, it's always up to people how it works, how it functions. So yeah, gonna see who's gonna provide funds for this fund, how it gonna work, and if it will actually help Bitcoin developers in actual court cases. So a lot to see here, and maybe from that we can switch to a less decentralized, outright centralized news.
Zach has I saw Zach open his mouth and then quickly close it.
In the 3 box, you really got to get your hands like up to your face. I was like over here. Nobody can see that. Nobody can see it. Anyway.
Sorry, Zach.
All right, here it is. I'm calling it. All right, I'm calling for the next one. And the interesting thing is, like, support Bitcoin core developers. People need to put up some checks to make this happen. And I think like if that happens, great. Also support Bitcoin core developers when they need legal funding. So, all you rich Bitcoin people who made a ton of money, go sign some checks, people. Come on, make some contributions.
Sign the checks.